One of the big things with trauma-informed care is giving people power and choices. One thing to think about when you're working with patients who don't speak English is that choices can be pretty limited. Like for many Spanish-speaking cultures, it's not typical for guys to talk about women's health stuff. But when you call an interpreter line, you kind of get whoever's available. So even if the patient was able to get a female provider, the message might still go through a man. And that can be unsettling, especially for someone from a culture where that's not how things typically work. It might make them feel awkward and they might avoid asking questions. I remember my first time translating during a procedure. It was my first time witnessing something like a Pap test. It's typically a routine procedure, but I remember the provider noticed something concerning, and due to the language barrier, the patient didn't fully understand. The patient broke down emotionally, and it was hard for me because I was connecting with the patient on so many levels. In that moment, I just had to get through translating, but later my supervisor checked in with me and we processed what happened together. I was able to talk about my feelings in the office instead of bringing it back home with me and it having to take up more space in my life. Something that happens quite frequently with patients who don't speak English as their first language is there's often a bit of fear when it comes to scheduling appointments. I think they have prepped themselves to get someone who doesn't speak their language when they call, so they're bracing for the other person to sound impatient or annoyed. Often when I answer, I hear how relieved they are. Others worry that we might want their information for purposes like immigration concerns. It's sad to see that people are scared to just reach out to make an appointment. It should be so simple. When there's a language barrier, there can be a lag between what the provider says and when the patient hears it. It can lead to discomfort or misunderstandings during the examination. I've seen situations where the provider would say something like, "You're about to feel pressure," but due to the delay in translation, the patient may have already felt the pressure. It can be jarring, and it's something we need to consider when providing care. Talking about sensitive stuff like sexual health or personal health matters can be pretty awkward, especially when you have family members doubling as translators. I mean, who wants their kids or relatives knowing all the super personal details? It just goes to show how crucial it is to have professional interpreters. Having a professional interpreter isn't just about privacy. Sometimes patients don't open up fully during medical appointments because they don't have access to proper translation services. That's a real problem that affects both patients and healthcare providers, and it's something to include when incorporating trauma-informed practices.